My name is Joan Matola, and as co-president of the League of Women Voters of Moore County, I would like to welcome you to the League's 2020 Candidate Conversations. These conversations are part of the League's efforts to help voters learn more about their candidates and issues to get to know them better as people. The League is a nonpartisan organization that does not support or oppose any political candidates. Our mission is to empower voters and defend democracy. For 100 years, the League has stood firm in the belief that government has a responsibility to represent and serve the people, not individuals in power. And now I will turn the conversation over to Carolyn Mealing, who will be talking with our candidate today.
Thank you, Joan. And we're so very pleased to have with us this afternoon Lowell Simon, candidate for the House of Representatives, District 52 in North Carolina. I do want to announce that both candidates for this office were invited to participate, but Jamie Bowles declined our invitation. Lowell, would you like to begin by telling us why you're running for this office and how your background and experience have prepared you for this?
Thank you, Carolyn, and thank you for inviting me to participate with you and with voters. It's unfortunate that Jamie Bowles decided not to, only because, I think these conversations are very important. I'm running because I believe that there are so many people in Moore County who are not being represented. They don't have a voice. They don't get the opportunity to participate in some of the great things that we have going on in Moore County, and no one's listening to them. And so I've spent most of my life, listening to folks and being involved with different causes. And I think that the majority of people in Moore County are being ignored and being overlooked and not getting the opportunity to participate. And, one of the things I say a lot is that, no matter what you were elected for, generally speaking these days, if you win, even if you win substantially, you might have gotten 30% of registered voters. If 50 or 60% of people who are eligible to vote, and then someone wins 50 or 60% of those voters, they're ending up being elected by 30% of eligible voters. Well, there's another 70% of people out there that also should be represented. And that's, I want to represent 100% of the people in our district. As far as my background is concerned, I am a first-generation American. My father came over escaping Nazi Germany as a German Jew in 1938, just 3 months before Kristallnacht. And, we grew up in that environment of understanding how easy it is for our rights to be lost. And my dad, didn't speak a word of English when he came. He ended up in one of the most prestigious high schools in New York City, and graduated, went off to the war, when it came back, and to the Korean War, just to be clear, came back, married his, high school sweetheart, and we were, raised in suburban Long Island. Like I said, that growing up as a first-generation American, that concept, that idea of what we as Jews always say, never forget, was always there, was always in the background of everything that we did. We always remembered that, be smart, be careful, because those rights can be taken away very quickly and very easily and for no reason whatsoever. I was also first generation to go to college. Graduated in 1978 from University of New York College at Brockport. No one knows what that is. And graduated with a philosophy degree and a minor in history. came out of college and, as I like to say, poured over the want ads under P's for philosophers, and there weren't any jobs. So I ended up working for 7-Eleven and spent 10 years there. Ended up, went from thinking I was going to someday manage my own store to ending up having the entire Northeast region and about 500 or 600 stores underneath me. Then had the opportunity to go work for another company headquartered out of Boston, actually out of Waltham, Massachusetts, and started my first opportunity of having some equity in a company. Became a part owner, started up New York City for them. And when my first son was born, we decided that we did not want to raise our children in New York City. My father never understood that. He said, I grew up on the streets of New York City. What do you mean? And moved to North Carolina. So we came to North Carolina in 1987, moved to Raleigh, which is where my wife, Amy's family was living, and lived there for about 8 years. Also started a few companies there. And then in 1995, we moved to Seven Lakes, to Moore County. Started a company, had a company that covered 8 counties. We had about 300 employees down here, and eventually sold my interest in that company, purchased a company headquartered in Southern Pines, and sold that company in 2006. Thought I was going to retire at age 50. I sold that company in August of 2006. By August of 2007, I was teaching math at Union Pines High School. So my retirement didn't even make it through a year. It's something I have not been good at. Taught math for 6 years at Union Pines. Loved really every day of it. And then the then superintendent of schools came to me and said, we want to start this entrepreneurship center. We know you were an entrepreneur. And we also know you know a little bit about math. Seems like you'd be a good guy to do this. And I said, does that mean I don't have to teach logarithms anymore? And he said, yeah, you won't have to do that. I said, I'm in. Yeah, absolutely. Count me in. So we started up this thing called Upstart UP for Union Pines, Upstart Entrepreneurship Center. And it was a fantastic program. We had kind of Shark Tank competitions where we had all 3 public high schools competing against each other. We had these major events. We started out in a small couple of classrooms in Sand Hills for the first competition till we were eventually filling up centers in Pinehurst. And I had kids who would come to me that wouldn't talk in front of the class, and then they were ending up presenting their business ideas to not only what we called sharks, which were local business people. I'm sure you know many of them, but also to a crowd of 200 or 300 people. And so I did that for 4 years and completed my 10 years of teaching in 2017, retired again. By February of 2018, I was running for the North Carolina House of Representatives. And that's what I've been doing. So yeah, don't ask me any advice about retiring.
Okay, thank you so much, Lowell. And we had sent some questions to Lowell in advance, and I'm going to start with asking that first question right now. Lowell, what are your 3 top legislative priorities?
And, it's unfortunate that my top 3 priorities haven't changed. It would be better if they had, and that would sort of mean that maybe some things have been done about them. But my first top 3 priorities would be, first of all, supporting public education, fully funding it, making sure teachers are paid like the professionals that they are. Some of the things that have to be done, well, really truthfully in everything that we're doing, the COVID pandemic has had some impact on some of the things that we have to do. Obviously, we have to do some things differently. But public education, number 1. Affordable, accessible healthcare, number 2. And of course, for me, that does include expanding Medicaid. And 3rd is our economy. We have a local economy that is somewhat golf-centric, which is fine. It's a great place to start. But we have an economy right now that's hurting, and hurting even more severely because of COVID. So we need to create not only creating jobs, there's plenty of jobs, they're just not good jobs. We need to create jobs that have benefits. We need to create jobs that have decent pay. We need to create jobs that, you know, if your baby gets sick, you don't get fired. If your tires didn't pass inspection, you don't get fired. We need to have better quality jobs. And the primary way that I think we need to do this is by promoting small business. Again, having taught entrepreneurship because I was a small businessman and an entrepreneur, I obviously have, my thoughts are skewed that way, but I don't think that we need to bring in one company that's going to employ 100 people. It's just unlikely. We've been trying to do that for, the 30 years that I've lived in Moore County, and it hasn't happened yet. We need to bring in 10 small companies that will employ 10 people. And that's where we need to spend our time and energy, and that's what we need to be promoting.
Very good. Well, moving on to our next question that you've kind of touched on this already. What would be your suggestions for addressing the economic issues caused by the COVID-19 pandemic?
And one of the things I like to say about the issues themselves is that you cannot separate one issue from another. They're all interconnected. Healthcare is interconnected to COVID clearly, but economy, education, and frankly, I could go on and on, but all of those issues are interconnected. And what we need to do as far as dealing with how COVID's impacted our economy is we have to support these small businesses. We have to make sure that what we're doing with the money, and that money is limited, but it's substantial. And what we do with that money is support those businesses that we are asking to make sacrifices now, restaurants, bars, gyms, the kinds of things that we know we're never going to get back to what it was like before. And to prepare those people for this new world that we're going to be living under is going to require some investment. And if we don't support those small businesses, we may never see them again. They may never come back. And there's a lot of things that we can do. But if we want to grow the kind of economy that will be successful here in Moore County, we have to work to support small business.
And Lowell, the third and final question that we had sent to you, in your opinion, what is the best way to handle the redistricting process in 2021 and why?
Well, I don't like to be cliche, but I also do believe in plagiarism. I believe that if someone smarter than me has already said it, why not go ahead and say it again? And that is, politicians should not choose their voters. Voters should choose their politicians. And I know that's cliche, but it's true. And we should not allow any partisan involvement in writing districts. And so the best way to solve this problem is to have a nonpartisan, community-based, citizen-based committee, council, commission. There's a lot of different ways to structure it, but some group that is nonpartisan, not placed into position by politicians that write the districts. And the truth is, I don't know the districts need to be rewritten every 10 years. I don't, there are some small changes that need to be made, but I don't know that we need to relook at the entire program every 10 years. But either way, to me, it's most important that the politicians are not deciding who their voters are going to be. So we need a nonpartisan group of people, whatever that structure is, that make those decisions about the districts.
Thank you. And Lowell, we've received some questions for you from voters, and we'd like to ask you a few of those now, if that's all right.
Wonderful.
As a state legislator, would you support having affordable health care available to all North Carolinians? And if so, what steps would you suggest to accomplish this goal?
So I was on one of the boards of the hospital for 14 years. And the specific board that I was on as and acted as chairman and vice chairman and just a board member throughout that time was for the First Carolina Care, which is the health insurance arm of First Health. So I've really gotten both an inside and an outside view. You know, obviously I've been a consumer and a customer of healthcare, as has my family. So to healthcare in general, first of all, let me make sure I am clear. I completely support affordable, accessible healthcare. And there are just so many issues that relate to this, from making sure that we have accessible healthcare, you know, in Robbins, in Vass, in Little River. You know, we have this fantastic hospital here in Southern Moore County in Pinehurst. But if you have a heart attack and you live in Spies or you live in Westmore, you know, you may or may not be able to get to First Health in time. And so we need to have some other kinds of ancillary programs. You know, we need PAs to be able to have their own offices. We need, you know, dental assistants to be able to have their own offices. You know, we need to make healthcare more accessible. As far as making it more affordable, healthcare as it is right now is what I call upside down. And what I mean by that is we reward providers for performing services. So the more tests they do, the more visits you have, you know, all of those things, the more that they can charge you, the better they get paid. And what we really should be rewarding our providers for is curing you. And the better, you know, the better the quality, the faster, the more effectively they can cure you. If it's me, the more I'm willing to pay you. So we need to, and by the way, some of that falls upon the consumer as well. A great example is you walk into a knee doctor for surgery and you're 100 pounds overweight. And the doctor says, you know, yeah, I see you're probably going to need surgery, but the first thing you got to do is lose 100 pounds. And we need to reward consumers for doing things that make them healthier. Smoking, exercise, you know, weight loss, diabetes, you know, all the things, you know, eating right, all the things that you can do yourself to make yourself healthier. That should translate, because as an insurer, that makes you less of a risk to me if I were an insurer. And so why wouldn't I lower your premium or lower your deductible, or you know, there's lots of different ways that we can reward, you know, consumers for taking care of themselves. You know, we penalize them. We charge them more if they're a smoker for their insurance, but we don't reward them because you know, they're not overweight or whatever it may be, or they've lost 10 pounds in the last 6 months. You know, there's lots of ways that we can do this. So the other and most pressing issue, of course, is Medicaid expansion. We are really fortunate that we have a great hospital. And not only is Medicaid expansion the right thing to do morally, you know, not is it only true that everyone should have the right and ability to get to see a doctor if they're sick, but economically, it's a, you know, you want, again, you know, all these things are connected. And economically, if you want to bring some jobs to Moore County, imagine how many jobs would be created by bringing more people under the healthcare umbrella. You know, from you know, the people who have to mop the floors, to more doctors, to more nurses, to more food service people to feed those people. You know, I think all the estimates that I've seen for the financial impact of Medicaid expansion is way underestimated. So yeah, you know, and That was scratching the surface.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I have a little education question for you. In your opinion, should private schools be receiving public funding? Why or why not?
I've been really clear on this one. Absolutely not. Private schools should not be receiving public funding. Public funding is for public schools. I don't object to private schools. If someone wants to send their children to private schools, you should be able to do that, but not on public, not on taxpayer money. Um, and it's not just that taxpayers and public schools are underfunded. Of course, that's a big part of the reason, but it's also that in private schools, you know, our school systems have no control over curriculum. They have no control over whether or not they even feed children. They have no control over whether or not they have transportation. They have no control over the number of certified teachers that are employed there. So, you know, to me, private school should be private. I sent my children to a religious school for their religious education, and I sent them to a public school for their public education, and they received both.
Thank you. And just one more question. Would you support a living wage of at least $15 an hour for all North Carolinians? And if so, what would you propose to make that happen?
Yes, I do. I do support a living wage for people. What that number is, you know, I know 15 is an easy number to kind of latch onto. Frankly, it's probably not even enough. We probably cannot do this again as a small businessman. I know this. We probably can't do it just overnight, flip a switch going from $7 an hour to, you know, 7.25 to $15 an hour, but we need to move it up, and we need to move it up fairly quickly. But living wages and being able to survive on a job is more than just salary. It is also things like, you know, benefits. People should be allowed to take some time for vacation. People should be allowed to, like I say, you know, take care of a sick child or a sick parent, or sick spouse. You know, people should be able to improve their education. You know, there's so many things that go into what I would call a living wage. And again, going back to the idea that you can't really separate any of these things completely. But it's ridiculous that we have had this huge redistribution of wealth from the middle class and the lower class to the wealthy. And it's all been done through tax incentives and tax breaks. And, you know, we have to roll some of those things back, because we have to put money in people's pockets who will spend that money. And, you know, trickle down economics, we know that that doesn't work. We've tried it. You know, we have the science that says it doesn't work. I believe if you put money in people's pockets to do things like pay for healthcare, buy groceries, pay for medicine, you know, buy gas for their car, that money is going to recirculate. Putting it into stock buybacks and, you know, judging how the economy is doing because your, you know, stock portfolio is going up, or the, you know, the Dow Jones is up, is not a reflection of how people are living. Most, you know, close to 50%, you know, depends on the number, depends on what you include, but somewhere in between 40 and 60% of people do not own any stock. And so the Dow Jones is, you know, why are we even talking about the Dow Jones as a measure of our economy?
Thank you. Lowell, would you like to tell the viewers why they should vote for you in this election?
Wow, where do I start on that? And I know you don't want me to say anything negative about my opponent, and I like my opponent. Jamie's a nice guy. I like Jamie. He has not done, he's been in there for 12 years. He has not accomplished anything for our county. In fact, he's done a lot of damage. And we need to change that. We need to put into place practices that will help everyday people. You know, my campaign is funded by human beings, by people. No PACs, no donors with special interests. You know, I have probably at this point, we'll wait, we're getting ready to do third quarter financials, but 3 to 4 times the number of donors. And it's because people realize and people are understanding that the legislature as it is right now, and in specific, our current legislator, has not done anything to help the average person. And those people have been struggling, and it's gotten worse. You know, I mean, COVID has made things so much worse for the average person, even though the Dow Jones is up and people's stock portfolios are doing better. But people who own small businesses, people who own, you know, restaurants, people who own small, you know, gift shops, and, you know, the kinds of things that make our economy go here in Moore County, those people are struggling and working 2 jobs and working 3 jobs in some cases, homeschooling, you know, all these things. And in 12 years, very little has happened. You know, we didn't really talk about the tier system, which, you know, came into place under our current leadership. And that essentially is taking whatever money we are generating and sending it off to other places, other counties. And we have to change that. If we don't step up and vote, and if we don't make some fundamental changes in how government is run and who it's run for, nothing's going to change. And I want to change it. And I think I have the experience, I think I have the background, and I have the desire to change it.
Thank you so much. Just one more question, and that is, if viewers still have questions for you, is there a way they can contact you?
Absolutely, yeah. There's lots of ways they can contact me. The 2 places that I would recommend is certainly Facebook. I'm really accessible. I'm on Facebook just about every day. Between myself and Genevieve, my campaign manager, we respond really quickly, sometimes within moments. And of course, my website, which is www.simonfornchouse.com. Really easy. And by the way, 4 is spelled out. simonfornchouse.com. You can see all my positions there. You can see, you can volunteer there. We certainly still need people who are willing to make phone calls and do things for us. And you can communicate with me or Genevieve. You know, we're also on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're even a little on TikTok.
Very good. Thank you so much. Well, that concludes our conversation with Lowell Simon today. Thank you all for watching. Now, please be sure to vote. It's not only your right and your responsibility, it's your constitutionally guaranteed privilege. Every vote counts, is equally important, and helps to ensure the protection and preservation of our democracy. Visit vote411.org for your online voter guide, where you can get important candidate and voting information. And remember, you can vote in person at any of the 4 early voting sites in Moore County from October 15 through October 31st, or on Election Day, November 3rd, at your regular polling place, or you can vote by mail-in absentee ballot. For more information about voting and mail-in absentee ballots, contact the Moore County Board of Elections.
Simon says vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn.